Y'all are gonna get a lot in this video. We're cooking a ham, and in that same pot, after it's done, gonna cook some string beans, potatoes, and dumplings, some squash and onions, and some candied yams. And that's a secret recipe I've been holding to myself a long time. Watch how it's done. Here we have a 8-quart stock pot, young ladies, young gentlemen. And then we have a smoked pork shoulder. Okay, and so this one is right at 9 pounds, and it is smoked, so it's already going to have seasoning. So we're not going to salt the water or anything like that. If you were cooking a fresh piece of meat, you'd have to put seasoning in with it. But I'm just going to let this cook in this water and come up to boil. Now, I am not going to boil this water and then put this in because I don't want any splashback. So I'm going to open this up and then gently put it in here and then turn the burner on. Okay, what I've done now is just placed it in the water. I have put it on high heat, and I'm going to cover it and let it go to town. I'm going to move it over to this back burner. Okay, y'all, that, my dear, is a bowl. Let's go ahead and turn this sucker down. Hit that button, turn it down to about a 2. All right? And that is boiling. So I put the top a little cattywampus there. Catty corner, cattywampus, whatever you want to call it. And when it slows down a little bit, I'll put the lid back on it, okay? Do y'all see how this has slowed down now and just a few boils on the side of here, there, and yonder? That is a slow boil. And so that's doing its own thing, and I'm going to leave the top on it. Now, does that mean it ain't going to fester up in a little bit and spit at you? No, it might do that. So make sure you don't have anything around it that you don't want to get wet, just in case a little sputter comes out or anything. And make sure you tell everybody in the house you got a hot pot on the stove, that you're boiling something. Now, I am cooking this ham about 22 minutes per pound. So that's around 3 hours that it's kind of got to slowly simmer and cook. And I'm going to turn it down one more notch to about low, medium low. And anywhere you want it simmering like that. They've been fully washed and scrubbed with that little brush I showed you, and I peeled an onion. This is just a regular old yellow or white onion, or you can use Vidalia, whichever you prefer. Okay, and we're going to cut them right on up and put them in the pan. Okay, guys, I've got the clean squash in here, and they're all clean, and I did not cut the ends off of them. So as I am going to put them on the cutting board, I cut the ends off, and they're ready to chunk up, because we don't have to worry about making these any certain thickness, because they're going to stew down with the onion. Okay, we're back over here with the pan. I had taken a little bit of olive oil and gone around the pan, just a couple of swigs. Okay, and now I've got the pan on about medium high. Going to heat everything up, and what you want to do is get everything up to temperature and then cut it down, and then we're going to put the lid on to simmer and cook, and that's when it'll stew down. Okay, what else I've got in there is probably about 3/4 of a cup of chicken stock. I had a little bit of this left, so I went ahead and used that, but I also use this as well. I've got chicken base, and you just heat up about a cup of hot water, and it tells you the ratio, what to do on this. Basic stock directions. Lord Jesus, can y'all read that? 1 teaspoon equals 1 bouillon cube in 8 ounces of boiling water. Okay, so I've got better than bouillon in chicken and beef, and that really works well. It imparts a whole lot of flavor, and you do not want to add salt if you're using something like that. I wait and I season after I get them stewed down. Okay, then I add salt and pepper and a teaspoon of sugar. But I didn't tell y'all about that secret ingredient at the end. So this is starting to get hot. I'm just going to go ahead and put the top on it and let it see how long it takes to get to a boil. Okay. The ham's going, the eggs are done, the squash is getting ready, the sweet potatoes are, oh gosh, they're done roasting and it still smells incredible here. That ham's probably is what you should start in the morning. If you're cooking a lunch, you'd have to start at like 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning because it's a 3-hour cooking process on low to cook that ham all the way through. All right, y'all, look how pretty those squash are boiling. Now I'm gonna go ahead and turn this down to about a level 3, okay? And if you have an option of a dual burner, small and large, and it's not boiling real well, check to make sure you've got both burners activated, okay? How do I hold this up? Away from you, because that's some serious boiling going on. And I'm just going to give it a stir. That chicken stock is doing its thing, and you don't want it to cook out. That's why you got to go ahead and turn it down to medium-low. And I'm just going to stir it around just a little bit because I'm not going to stir it. And I'm going to keep an eye on it to make sure it's not boiling out. Okay. And that's about what you want, a slow simmer, just like that, so you can see the bubbles coming in. And do you see that steam? It's kind of cooking everything down and softening everything up. And it doesn't take long to cook down. And we're going to show you, you're going to chop those things up. But you want the onions probably take a little longer. So let's see what's going to happen. The ham is boiling away. It's doing its thing. And all of that juice in the water is coming out. And it's making what we call pot liquor. Okay, let's talk about fresh string beans. Some varieties are actually stringy and you have to snap them and get the strings off, but you do have to snap the ends off. And they come dirty. I mean, they ain't like right field dirty they do rinse them before they put them out. But as soon as I got done with the squash a while ago, I rinsed the bowl out. This is my smaller bowl, and I've been letting them soak in water ever since. It's been about a good 30 minutes while I've been doing other things. So that's my rough soak. And I'm going to drain them and put them in water again. Okay, I've probably rinsed them about 4 times. But I take my hands and I agitate them while I'm rinsing them. And I fill them up with water, then I rinse the water out. And basically, I'm doing like a washing machine with a motion with my hands, okay? And then if you pull it over to the side and you don't see anything in the water, I see a little bit of green stuff, but there's no bugs, there's no dirt or anything like that. That water's pretty clean. And then we're going to take a handful of them and put them on the cutting board. And I'm going to show you what I'm going to do to them next until we get them all done, okay? Okay, I've got my clean vegetable bowl that I'm going to use to put the finished product in, okay? And this is the bowl I'm going to be using. And these are washed and they're clean, but they're not strung yet. I haven't checked them for strings and I haven't cut the ends off. So what I do, I take about maybe 6 in my hand and I chop the ends off. Then I even them back up. And all the time you're looking for any kind of blemishes or any bad spots or anything that you don't want to mess with. And then you've got some green beans with the ends cut off. Now, I'm going to check these for strings. Because one time I was told they weren't supposed to have any strings, and they did. And eating a whole bunch of strings is not tasty, but these do not have any strings. And the way you can test that is you pull them slowly, okay? And down the seam, if they had any strings, the long string would come off. But these are not. They're just like snap beans. So I'm just going to cut them in half and do the rest of these. Don't y'all want to help me? It won't take long. Okay, the string beans are all strung. There won't any strings in these, but you always check, all right? And they're clean. The ends are snipped off, and I cut them in half so they would be easy to eat. So we're waiting on those. We're going to put them aside because we're going to cook these and the potatoes when the ham gets done. Okay? Okay, let's check up on our squash. It's been going about 15 minutes with the top on. Okay? And it's still got liquid in it. Let's see how tender the squash are. They are fork tender, which is exactly what we wanted. Okay? So we're going to keep cooking them until we can just mash them down. And this is, you know, stewed with squash and onions, and it's going to be cooked all the way down. What you don't want to happen is for that liquid to cook out and it to start burning. Okay, not yet anyway. We want to get a little color on it at the end, but we want that to be controlled. So we're going to stew it on down with the top on it just for a few more minutes. Then we're going to stew it, finish it off with the top off. Please stand by. Okay guys, if y'all have a clear lid, you can see that there's still moisture in there and it's still kind of bubbling away on a slow simmer. But I think, I'm going to check it. I'm thinking it's tender enough to go on and finish cooking it down. And once you take the top off, then the steam will rise and the moisture will go away. And you can see when you pull it away, there's less and less of the moisture. And the squash is really stewed down well. You can smash it all. You want a little texture left in it, but it should freely give when you push down on it. Okay, we're almost at the last hurrah for this liquid. It's still bubbling a little bit, but when you push it aside, there's very little, if any, that pulls up anymore. At that point, you're ready to season this. So press it on back down, get it all covered back up so you can spread it on easy. Okay? And we're going to take some salt and pepper and season that. I'm going to go around it with the salt one time, and I'm going to go around it with the pepper. And this is the secret ingredient. Shh. Just about a teaspoon of sugar. We're going to scooch it around. And if you want to, you can add about another half a teaspoon, depending on how much you're cooking. You want to get it all. But that's about it. So that's the secret ingredient is dispersed. Now I'm going to salt and pepper it. Okay, there you go. The salt and pepper and the secret ingredient is in there. And we're just going to cook it a little bit more. And you can turn the heat up at this point if you want a little caramelization, a little bit of color on it. But for all practical purposes, it's done and you could serve it. But I'm going to turn it on to warm and just let it kind of sit in here with the top on, okay? Until we put everything together. But that's it for stewed squash. They are stewed away. Okay, it's been almost 3 hours since it's been cooking. And I've been able to use a kitchen fork and turn it. And what you're looking for is where the bone is, okay? It should pull away from the bone. And look at there. It's pulling away from the bone and it's starting to be fork tender where you can pull it off. So this sucker is about done. Plus, it is floating. That's a good sign. But those are the things you want to look for when it's done. I cook it for 20 more minutes just to be safe because it's easier to have it done in another few minutes than not. So be patient. Carry it 20 more minutes past when you think it's supposed to be done. Okay guys, I have just taken the ham out. I used 2 of these very sharp kitchen forks that are very long, one on each side. I stuck one on one side and one on the other and lifted it. That's something you need to do very carefully and know where you're going to put it because there's some juice that's going to come out. And what you want to do is take a knife, cut it right down to where the bone is, okay? Make sure everything looks cooked, all the juices are clear, and you're not seeing any blood or anything like that. That extra 20 minutes is just little insurance. And everything should give away very easily, okay? And this is just going to sit and rest, all right? In the meantime, I got the water, which is the pot liquor, back up to a boil. It's got all that yummy goodness in it. And we're going to put the clean and washed and prepped string beans and potatoes in there, and that's got to come back up to a boil, and then we're going to simmer that probably about 40 minutes on low. Okay, they've come back up to boil, and what we want to do, we don't have to stir them really because they're in sufficient amount of liquid, but now what I want to do is turn it back to a level 4 for me, which is just below medium, like a medium low. And we're just gonna let those cook with the top back on. Hey y'all, welcome to Michelle's Southern Home Cooking. I'm Michelle, and I'm in the middle of making a country boiled dinner, which consists of ham, string beans, potatoes, and dumplings that are cooked all in one pot at separate times though. And then to go with it, I've got some stewed squash and onions, and I'm making some candied yams. So now we're going to go over the candied yam part. I have baked sweet potatoes in the oven. I just baked them at 400, and they have cooled. And if you'll notice, they will draw up, and the skin will be loose, and all those sugars and all that wonderful sweet potato goodness goes back into the actual sweet potato itself, and they're much sweeter that way. I never buy canned, never buy canned sweet potatoes ever. They're just not good. You can bake these at night when you're sitting there watching TV. They just need to be in there an hour, and you cut the oven off and you leave them in there until the next morning when you need to use them. If you're going to use them the same day, make sure you let them cool in that oven. Turn it off at least for 2 hours before you start to peel them, okay? So do this ahead of time. This is something you can do early in the morning if you're making things. After you get them out of the oven, you just take the ends and cut them off, and then I run the knife, this is just a little old paring knife that's sharp, and then at that point I just peel it out. Peel it right out of the skin, trying to preserve as much of the sweet potato as I can. Now, there's going to be some darker spots where they baked, and that's fine. If they're too dark, just cut them out. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just where it caramelized and the sugar got really sweet. And most of the time it's where it sat on the aluminum foil. So there we go. I have the sweet potato all peeled, and I'm going to slice that on the diagonal and slice it in half. So there's 2 candied yam servings, and what I'm putting it in is a sprayed aluminum foil pan. I sprayed it with a non-stick cooking spray, and we're just going to put those up there, and I'm just going to continue to do that until I peeled them all. Okay, welcome back. I have all of the yams, or sweet potatoes actually, cut up and in a pan, and I fold in the edges of this one because I'm going to bake these in my little toaster oven, which is a convection oven as well, and it'll fit in there that way. I like these foldable, moldable aluminum pans. But we're going to make the syrup that's going to go over these now. I've taken 1 stick of butter, which is 1/4 pound, and melted it on low heat. Add a 1/2 cup of brown sugar and a 1/2 cup of regular sugar. All right, I've got this water to thin it out if we need to. That's just kind of, you know, what goes on. But the other ingredient that is the secret is a 1/2 cup of pancake syrup. All right, now, so that is good for that. And we're just going to incorporate it, and we'll heat it all up until it all gets melted. I've turned up the heat a little bit to just north of medium. Not medium high, but a little higher than medium. Level 6 on mine. So it's not quite boiling yet, but it is getting melted. But we want to cook it until it boils, and then we're going to cut it off. Okay guys, here's the secret of why my things turn out so good, and people say, oh, it tastes a little different. I'm gonna come clean. I use King Arthur flour Vietnamese cinnamon. I order it from Amazon, but you can order it from them too. But it goes a long way, and it's a lot of it, okay? So in this little ramekin here, I've got 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, and I use a 1/2 teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice. It's just the right blend, and it goes so well with so much. I use it in cookies and everything. And I use it in my apple pie instead. Now, this is ground allspice. It is very strong. I don't use very much at all. So I just a dash, really. And then these are ground cloves, and I use just a little bit of that as well. Not enough to throw a stick at, really. So I just use a little whisk to whisk it all, and I'm going to sprinkle it on, take a pinchful and sprinkle it on the yams before I pour the syrup on them. Okay? And that, if you don't like this, you don't have to do it. I've got one lady that I know is allergic to cinnamon. Bless her heart. And so I made her some sweet potato or candied yam biscuits one time with my leftover mashed up candied yams. And that did not work out so well. She couldn't eat them, but her family sure enjoyed them. So now we're coming back over here. And this has almost bubbled up. It's done a little slow boil. It's not quite there yet, so we're going to come back when it's boiling. Okay, so here we are back, and it is boiling. And I'm going to show you something, another little secret of mine. I don't add the marshmallows on top. I just put a handful in here to give that little flavor. And that's just probably about a half a cup of mini marshmallows. And you're going to turn it off the heat. And you're just going to let those marshmallows melt. And it's okay to go ahead and pour them while it's hot on top of the candied yams, okay? Or the sweet potatoes that are going to magically turn into candied yams. Okay? And that's all good. And so what we're going to do now is put them in the oven for about 20 minutes on 350. Testify. Have you done this? Have you left a chicken salad, potato salad, or deviled eggs in the refrigerator? And then you're washing up and cleaning up and go to put something in the refrigerator and like, I forgot to put out the chicken salad, tater salad, or deviled eggs. But anyway, don't do that. Make yourself a note, a list of everything you're supposed to be serving. Then you won't forget it. I've just taken the candied yams out after being in the oven 20 minutes on 350, and I'm going to turn everything over. But after you get them all turned over like that, you want to take a little bit of that cinnamon mixture that we had left over. So we just lightly dust with a little bit to put a little bit on there. Gosh, I wish you could smell this. Oh my gosh, it smells like Christmas or Thanksgiving. All right, back into the oven for 15 more minutes. Looky here. After turning them and cooking them again, taking them out, I just put some foil over them and left them warm in the oven. They can stay like that as long as you need to. This is one you can bake a few hours ahead without a problem. Candied yams. I hope you truly will enjoy these very special candied yams. Very rare do I ever share this recipe, and I've just shared it with you. Makes you have a fit, girl. Yum, yum, yum. Hey, my sweet folks. Just want to let you know I have cut this ham up. I have hacked on it, and I had to remove the fat cap, and there's a lot of fat, and there's some meat in there too, and I'm going to pick back through it because my husband would say I would be wasteful. But I'm going to not do any more because I'm going to save that bone and freeze it and use it in a pot of soup, like ham and bean soup, split pea soup, something like that. Big old ham bones like that are worth a lot of money. Not really. But, you know, to just get the bone with a little bit of meat on it to cook, sometimes people do buy just that from like hickory hams and stuff like that. But I just wanted to show you, this is the lean meat that I have cut out. And so that is what we're going to serve. So that's what the finished product of the ham looks like. I'm going to make something for you you may not have ever heard of. It's called a cornmeal dumpling. And I'm going to use white cornmeal that's just stone ground corn. Okay, it doesn't have anything else in it. See where it says stone ground and sifted. You can get it fine or medium ground. Either one is fine. I'm going to start off with a cup of the cornmeal. And to that, I'm going to add 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour. And then I'm going to season it. I am whisking the flour and the cornmeal together. I just added 1/4 teaspoon of salt. If you like it a little saltier, you can add more. But now's the time to do it because we're getting ready to add the water. Okay, I hope you can see and hear me okay. I'm going to add in, now I never know how much water. I've got a cup of water in here, okay? So I'm going to just start pouring probably 1/4 a cup. I'm going to start with it. And I'm going to incorporate it until it comes together. And you want it to come together like a pie crust dough, okay? Now, you can still see little bits of flour in there, so I'm going to add a pinch more. I just added the water, just till everything gets wet and it's coming together as a dough. Can you see that it comes together? And with very clean hands, okay, you're going to take over with your hands because your hands can mix better than anything. And you're going to start rolling it into each other and kneading it. And as soon as it comes together, you're going to put it on a plate. So I'm going to transfer everything over here. Okay. Move this out of the way. I'll need that for the cornbread in a little bit. Okay. All right, so there's key elements. My mother especially wanted me to make sure I told you about these dumplings. Okay, she said make sure you fold it in on each other, just like if you were making biscuits, okay? And we're going to, they're moist through and through, okay? You just want to make sure there's no dry spots in them, and there's not. It's like Play-Doh, seriously. It's like Play-Doh. All right, so what we're going to do is pinch off probably, if I had to guess, that would be like half a chicken. Okay, we're going to roll them into little balls. You want to make sure everything is boiling. And I've got the string beans and the potatoes in the pot, and these are going to cook on top of them. You want to make sure you pat them down thin, but not too thin. Probably, can y'all see that? I'm saying that's about 1/3 of an inch, 1/4 to 1/3 of an inch thick. And she said you want them about the palm of your hand size, no larger. Here's our stock pot boiling with the string beans and the potatoes in it, and we're going to carefully put a dumpling in there with it boiling. Just slowly just set them on top and they'll sink. As they get done, now don't put them on top of each other, just kind of around, and as they get done they will rise to the surface, okay? So it's probably going to take a good 10 or 15 minutes for them to cook. And we'll see how they look in just a few minutes. Okay, guys, they're ready. They floated to the top. Now, what I would do is serve this alongside of the string beans and the potatoes. And down here we have the string beans and the potatoes. Do you see the potatoes? And here we are putting it all together. We got the lovely ham, string beans, potatoes, and dumplings. And over here we've got candied yams. And finally, some stewed squash and onions. And I fixed it up to take it to somebody along with a little bit of fried cornbread. Yum, yum.